Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. We're on to the next video. This one is in regard to the exclusive rights to sell business agreement form. Now, this is an exciting form because this is where you get your first listing, second listing, third. It doesn't matter, honestly, if you get your 100th listing. Getting a listing and having the exclusive right to sell the business is a very exciting time. And I want to express, first of all, when you get to this point, a big congratulations, because you will see if you follow the process, this is the form that really is the first hurdle in the actual firm in getting that listing. So we're going to go over this thing in full detail. Hang with me. I assure you it's not as complicated as all these legal forms and jargons look like, but just know that it's one of those things to where if you're at this step, you're at the right step. So let's dive in. So the exclusive right to sell business agreement is when you get to that new listing and that new owner, and you're like, hey, I really want to sell this thing. I really want to sell your business. You've talked it out, you ironed it out, and now you're about to put it on the piece of paper. I would first and foremost highly recommend, when you go into businesses, have this filled out with your portion of it already. Assume the sale. So if you are not walking in with pre-made exclusive right to sell business agreements, you're already behind the eight ball. If you're like, hey, I need to go home and email it to you, send it to you, you just bought yourself another month of delay. So what I like to do personally is when I get out there in front of these businesses and we say, hey, you know what? Is this something you want to move forward with? Yes, perfect. Let me show you this. This is our exclusive right to sell business agreement. We can go through it right now. I'd love to if you've got the next 10 minutes. But if you wanted to take it home and go look at it, you're more than welcome to. But here's everything that you need to fill out. All of my sections already filled out. Okay, that will leave it to little chance, not overwhelming to the potential seller. It's really, really easy to be able to get that business closed, essentially. So now I'm going to go through this training as if you are the actual seller of the business and I'm the broker talking to you to explain how this all works, okay? So first and foremost, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, let's get your information on the business in here. Again, this is not going to be what's listed out there. We obviously keep all confidentiality, extremely important. At first, we simply just tell, we need your information about the business. We want to talk about your ownership, just in case you or your sister or brother are part owners, or your friend. We need to make sure that's all documented down here. Okay, so that's really quick, easy 1 and 2 step. Most of the time they have it right then and there. Now, the big and famous line, the listing price. But I want to express to you, Mr. Buyer, or excuse me, Mr. Seller, that the listing price here, writing this down, really doesn't mean too much. What it does mean is that we have a starting point. And we don't really necessarily know what that is at this point. We can really go over it more. So let's just put what we think and what we want to get here. And then, unlike the real estate world, in the actual brokerage world, in listing this at a firm, you don't have to necessarily worry about, oh, it's been on the market for 6 months or 3 months or 1 year, or the price has been dropped or gone down like real estate you see. So the price can be changed up and down. I have sold businesses where we listed it at, for example, 100,000. We got a few buyers. The deal fell through. We turned around and listed it for 200,000 and got even more buyers. So it's one of those things where we really want to pay close attention to this, but it's not that big of a deal. We just really want to put what we want to get right here. We go through the initialing, all that good stuff, everything. The term listing begins on X date. Now, I want to, Mr. Seller, give us some time to get marketing, crowd, and everything getting done. Let's put roughly 30 days from now for when this thing becomes live. Now, we might go live before then, but this listing really will begin on X date and ends on this date. Our normal process is a 6-month time frame we ask to sell this business. And the reason is because the first month, like I said, is really about getting the business, the assets, the finalized price, the marketing, the pictures, and getting it live and listed. We then field calls for about 2 to 3 months. And then we start getting some offers. Now, once we get that offer accepted, we have a due diligence period, which usually is 2 weeks to a month. And then finally, our lawyers and legal team will come in, and they take about 30 to 45 days to close. So by asking for a 6-month leeway, essentially, in this process or contract to exclusively sell with us, we are really only selling about a month or two by the time we get everything done. But that's just how long it takes for the business to be sold most of the time. Okay. Now, the fee. everybody wants to talk about the fee, Mr. Seller. We don't charge any money up front at this point. Or I don't specifically as one of your brokers. However, at the end of the sale, there are some fees that we will take and on our cut, if you will. Our final price is 15%, but if the business is under 115 grand, then we take $15,000. So why 15%? Essentially because we don't put any money up front in the deal. We pay for all the marketing, the listings, the actives, things that you would normally have to pay for if you were to sell this yourself. And about 75% of the firms out there today charge about $5,000 to $10,000 up front because that's what it really costs to list this business. But we essentially charge the same standard rate as most people at 15%, but we include all that stuff up front that we don't charge you, okay? Now, if the owners agree to sell, exchange, or any part of the business to anyone at any price on any terms, we essentially have the right to this commission. The owners grant or agree to grant another person option to purchase at all businesses. This is absolutely included. This is the earn section, Mr. Seller. And then, of course, if you breach the listing, essentially you were to sell this. Now, the reason why we do this, Mr. Seller or Mrs. Seller, is because sometimes we will bring you buyers, and it's happened before, where essentially we get cut out of the puzzle. And what happens is two things. You think that you're going to save money by not paying our 15%, but we're contracted to get that. The second thing is it always falls apart when it gets to the legality part of the transaction, filing, and all those different things. And that's why you want a person to partner with you through this and a consultant to help you through this process, okay? That's why essentially we have essentially put this firm fee on here. We're pretty firm with this. And the reason is because, again, we're putting all of our money up front and our action, okay? It then talks about the payable section. The fee is not payable if we don't sell the business. Again, we put our money where our mouth is. If the business is not sold, we collect nothing and we're out the money up front. Okay. Now, there are other fees that are associated with any type of closing on a business. Let's start out with the basic ones. There's the fees to where we list with the state, our legal fees. There's an evaluation fee. Essentially what that is where when your business comes to market, we have a valuation team that will go on there and will evaluate your business to help us back up the price. Now we can use that valuation, not use that valuation, but either way at cost, and it will help us sell your business. Okay. There's also state fees. There's also tax fees. There could be real estate fees based off if you're going to buy real estate with it. These are all fees that are included. Now, when it comes specifically to the business side of things, most of the time the fees are usually split 50-50. But depending on the price and negotiation, we've seen the buyers 100% pay for all the closing costs, and we've seen the sellers pay for the closing costs depending on the price. Okay, so this is extremely important. We tell you this upfront. It's very honest. If there's any fees here, we're going to list them right now. For example, if you want us to buy a marketing package for some of these bigger companies to sell, we will put that in here as an expense. Okay. Now, there is a protection period. No later than 10 days after this listing ends, the owner may send written notice specifying the names of individuals or entities that are engaged regarding business during this listing. The owner shall agree to sell or part of any of the business to any of those people named in the notice or relative such a person during the particular period. Owners will pay BizBroker Plus. Again, 10 days after the listing. The protection one can be longer if you put it in line one, if you want it to be 6 months, 3 months, or whatever it is to protect yourself from them selling to a person that's essentially going to close but doesn't close until after the period is up of the 6 months. Same thing. If the business is broke, the business is sold within 2 years after the termination of the agreement to a buyer who was first introduced by the broker term, we are entitled to the full commission. So there you go. We're protected at all costs. Okay. Now, access to the business. Mr. Buyer, Mrs. Buyer, or excuse me, Mrs. Seller, we need access to the business. We need to know as much as we possibly can so we can get this sold. But this includes pictures. This includes keys to a restaurant. This includes an asset list. We're going to go through it all, and don't worry, we have lists and we will hold your hand through it. And if you don't have everything, it's not the end of the world. We will take it as we go. And again, this is not the first time we've done this. We will help you out and we will get you through this process. So, but we're putting here that we need the rights to access to the business so that we are not blocked in any way so we can sell this business for you. Okay. Now, if there's any exclusions listed by the business owners, where this comes from is like, you know what? I've really been talking to this guy named Jeff. He's been really wanting to buy my business for 6 months. If I sell it to Jeff, I would like to have a different type of commission because I've been working Jeff for the last 6 months. That's an exclusion. The other exclusion could be we will not sell our business if they are going to fire our employees in the next 6 months. These are all exclusions that we could put on here, or they must be approved by the franchise if it's a franchise. All that's listed right here. Okay. Now, we talked about legal and closing fees, costs, marketing and advertising. All that stuff is paid for upfront. However, there will be transaction fees and closing fees that are at the end. Okay. Again, one of those things too here now on the owner's responsibilities. This will be your biggest hiccup, team, is whenever you are going through trying to collect these documents, it takes forever for these owners to get them. It's just because they're trying to run their business. So one of the important things is just to set that standard upfront. You know, hey, we really need these paperwork as fast as we possibly can. For the next week, let's set up a one-to-one time where you and I talk about all the different things that we need, and let's get this thing going so we can get it sold for you. Now, we talked about confidentiality in that form as well, but again, this is just reiterating confidentiality, same for title and authority and escrow and closing. Now, you will get a lot of questions about how does the closing work. Hey, it's very simple. The potential buyers will present to us an offer. At that time, the escrow and closing will get paid, essentially a deposit. Think of it like a real estate house. They will hold on to those fees until the business is closed and due diligence period is closed. Okay. Now, pre-qualification of buyers. We agreed to reasonably make efforts to pre-qualify buyers. You want to do this anyway so they don't waste your time. You are going to get a lot of potential buyers out there that are going to say, I want this, this, and this. And you're like, can you just show me the funds? And then we'll get to that point that you have the reason to build this. To buy this. We've been through this many times ourselves. You get to the very end, you get offers and they have no money. And nothing is more disappointing than any of that. So make sure that you are really talking about the importance of that. We do vet and pre-qualify buyers. And that is why we get a lot of current owners that are selling the businesses on their own come to us because they're just simply tired of the pre-qualification step. All right. So obviously the governing law, the state of where you're located at, entire agreement, the amendments we talked about, hold harmless. The owner agrees to indemnify and hold business broker plus harmless for any and all claims, damages, losses, or expenses, including attorney fees, arising out of any incorrect, misleading, or incomplete information supplied by the owners. Now, you're just simply saying, hey, look, if you said that you made XYZ in profit and we broadcasted that on our listings, and then the new buyer comes through and does due diligence and finds that that's not the case, we're not liable in any manner. And that's be the case of customer list, potential earnings, any of that stuff. We are hold harmless in this whole situation to let them know that we are really a consultant leading them through this process of selling their business, but we are not liable in any ways. Okay. Now, payment upon sale, that just simply is stated as is. We get paid once we close the business, along with the broker covered listing fees, upfront payment options, reserves the right to require. Okay, we'll stop here for a second. There are times where, like I said earlier in this training, there are BizBroker brokers actually charge up front for listing. We do not, but however, if you decide you want to, because it's a much bigger business, then you can as well. We could talk about more on that in a little bit, another training. All right, so a transfer fee, non-refundable transaction fee of $4.99 will be applied to cover administrative documentation. Again, this is standard. This helps cover all the transfers and things like that. Commission fees are due. And then we get down here to the intermediary status. We may be able to show, obviously, businesses to interested prospective buyers, just letting us know that we will be showing this to potential buyers, but we may not disclose prospective buyer that the owners will accept a price lower than the asking price unless specifically instructed, written by the owners. So we are an intermediary. Excuse me, I'm talking a while. My get a little bit of cotton out here. So essentially, we can up and down the price. However, we will disclose all offers. That's one thing. We also may not disclose, if we don't want to, prospective buyer is willing to pay a higher price than the amount stated as a written offer unless specifically instructed written by the buyer. So if the buyer is basically saying, I'm going to offer this, and they write it down, we need to show them. Again, I think the best practice is just simply any offer, you always discuss it with the owner. And that's how we do it here at BizBroker Plus. We will not disclose any confidential information about the owners or prospective buyer as instructed in the writing to keep it confidential. So if the buyer says, and you're telling this to the potential seller, if the buyer does not want to let you know who they are, they don't need to know who you are. And vice versa. They have LLCs, they have protection, they have legal teams. It's completely up to them. But the actual seller could say, I'm not going to sell it unless I know who they are. That could be part of the contract as well. So again, this is the parts where every transaction is different. Just make sure you do your part and making sure you're just completely transparent about everything and what they're saying. Okay. And finally, we'll get down here to the real estate notice and the licensed broker. Essentially, you obviously can sell businesses that have real estate attached to it. This is where we simply say, hey, look, we are a consulting firm specializing in brokering non-real estate transactions. We will never act as a real estate brokerage. However, in transactions involving real estate as part of the business sale, BizBroker Plus ensures that all real estate matters are handled by appropriate licensed professionals. So if you do not have a real estate license, you must work with a real estate broker that is licensed to sell real estate. You can work out the commission, you can work out your referrals, but most of the time, again, this is something that you'll be doing outside of our firm. Okay. Now, if you're your own broker or your own broker in your own real estate license, you can do the transaction, just not under our name for the real estate. Okay. We are only exclusively for businesses. Okay. Now, partnering with local agents, it talks about that. Just what I just mentioned above. And then essentially, this is where you list it, sellers, brokers firm, you sign the document and you're good to go. And then you will then upload it into your respective CRMs. Okay. So this is it. I know it was a long video, but this is probably one of the most important forms we have. I appreciate you guys listening, and we'll talk to you soon.